Hello there, I'm Callum Johns and welcome to the EU in Review, where I review the Star Wars Expanded Universe as I experience it. Today I'm going to be talking about issues 11 until 14 of the classic Marvel Star Wars. And these are all written by Archie Goodwin and illustrated by Carmine Infantoni and Terry Austin. So I don't have a blurb per se, so I'll get straight into my notes as I go. In issue 11, it's interesting that it says Don 1 thought he was a Jedi Knight. And I like the idea that he's sort of deluded into thinking that he is. Han calls Chewie a friendly neighbourhood Wookiee, which is really nice after Peter Mayhew's death to think about. There's a gentle giant sort of thing. What I wasn't quite as keen on is it recaps the previous story arc before he decides to rejoin Luke and Leia. As of course having all of them together is what the writers want. It's a bit of like, well, I just read that. Why are you repeating that previous arc? Anyway. And I knew it was stupid of Leia to go on her own and see where it led her. She was captured by pirates. At least they make sense with the narrative with that sort of stuff. Some pirates don't have shirts on. Again, with these comics, I don't know why they don't have shirts on. It's like Han before in the previous story arc. Why don't they have shirts on? Han playing a con by kissing Leia is interesting, I thought. And if Luke and Leia weren't siblings, then it would have actually led to a love triangle, because it actually shows Leia obsessed with Luke and thinking about Luke, but then Han's coming along, and of course she loves him as well. And oh boy, how her obsession with Luke comes about in the movies. Anyway, I love how Leia again shows that she isn't helpless, but adding to the con that Han made up, she adds to it. That's cool. And the whole thing's around the Drexel system, this story arc, so there's a reference to The Force Unleashed. Or at least The Force Unleashed is a reference to it. The dialogue between Jolly, Crimson Jack's first mate, and Leia about men is funny. So they have this whole part where she pretty much Leia's teasing her about being infatuated for the first time and not having kissed a guy or anything. And yeah, it's funny. And I like how it explains a little bit that Darth Vader may not be successful in informing the Empire of the location of the Rebel base. Now, why this is a bit more important is because in Rebel Force, they actually stay in Yavin 4 for longer than you would think they'd stay for. But it makes sense why they stay there if they think that Darth Vader didn't inform the Empire. That'll be my headcanon for it anyway. This canon can sort of fill in the gaps. Luke crashes, and it's interesting that they chose him to crash on a water planet, which is pretty much the opposite of Tatooine. And of course, the water planet idea George Lucas probably repurposed to Camino. Albeit a bit different, of course. It doesn't have sea dragons and stuff. And 3PO's dialogue on the cover is inaccurate, which is pretty much the opposite of what he says inside the comic. And I'll bring that up here. And the art does seem to improve with this issue, though, and the subsequent issues, so the different illustrators actually helped the comic. Issue 12. Luke's lightsaber is red, as with the other ones in this comic run so far. Interested to see when they actually do the right coloured lightsabers. They also spell lightsaber the correct way in this one, although they do call the droids robots. Interesting little dialogue bits and pieces. I do like how they give the backstory behind how Crimson Jack the pirate got the Star Destroyer, because he goes around in a Star Destroyer, it's cool. And there's this whole scene with Jolly in this issue that's funny, like she's talking about kissing to someone and they try and oblige her and then basically chucks a tantrum. It's funny. Also in this issue it says that Chewbacca is 100 years old, when future material states that he's over 200 at that point in time. So it's interesting to see how different it is. Issue 13. This one's titled The Day of the Dragon Lords. I find that a bit of a funny title. How you have Dragon Lords as a title in Star Wars. And it makes sense in the context, but yeah, not really something I'd think of as Star Warsy. Using R2 to repair a skimmer and stay alive is interesting. How they sort of basically repair the skimmer, and that's how Luke is kept alive by Governor Quark. It lines up with programming from repairing the J-type Nubian in the Phantom Menace as well. And if you don't know which one the J-type Nubian is, it's the royal chrome-plated ship. The Master Machine Smith being hung is darker than I thought they would actually go. So this is a story for kids. It's a comic. But they still have people being hung and everything, which is a bit darker than I thought they might go. The governor on this world tells a story about his father in the days of the Republic. I wonder if his story has actually been written anywhere at all. So if any of you guys know, let me know, because Governor Quark's father apparently was one of these asteroid wrecker people. Asteroid wreckers that they actually crash landed on this planet in the Draxel system, which they didn't name the planet, which is also interesting. But the interesting part is they use sonic jamming devices to disrupt ship drives. Doubtful that includes a hyperdrive, but it's an interesting method on how they put together bits and pieces from the old wrecker technology to use for this purpose. On page 9, they look like they're welding a tree down. I don't know why they don't just cut it. On page 11, there's a possible printing error where there's a text bubble, but there's no text. At least on the version that I read. And on page 13, Chewie runs on all fours like an ape. And he does look more like an ape because he has those proportions as well. But I do like how Chewie bloodlusts and attacks Luke. It's an interesting different side of Chewie that we haven't really seen before. Issue 14. There's a Cantina joke at the start, which reads, "What do you call someone who fights an enraged Wookiee bare-handed?" Dead. Apparently it's an old Cantina joke. Pretty much don't mess with the Wookiee. They have this big scale battle with the serpents, which is cool. They have this sort of thing over a double page that shows the battle between the sea dragons and skimmers and that, which is cool. A governor is definitely a good example of someone corrupt with power. Even with people telling him that something's not possible, he still wants it. And so, basically, corrupt with power, I want, sort of thing. They seem to refer to the group, like with the big three and that, as Star Warriors. Similar to, say, the Guardians of the Galaxy or the Avengers. And I use those examples because this is Marvel Comics. And they also have an ad for the X-Men as well. It could be something like that, where they call the group Star Warriors. It's interesting to think that they have that perception at the time. I thought it was pretty interesting how they knocked Chewie out with R2's extinguisher, which is handy. And also, I think this may be the first time his fire extinguisher actually appeared, if I'm remembering correctly. I don't think R2 used his fire extinguisher in A New Hope, so I think this is the first time the extinguisher actually appeared. And George must have remembered that and used that for Empire Strikes Back, and of course he helped work on the story as well. They planned out the story to a point. I love how they have the sea dragons coexist with humans, and the Governor Quark can't see that even the small lizards are their children. I think it's a really interesting aspect that the bad guy of this story arc just overlooks natural life as coexisting as a solution. And that's good. Luke smacking Han I don't know why Luke smacks Han to start with. Why not just explain what's going on first, and then you can smack each other if you want? But I do like Luke's little twist in the setup that actually helped Han and got them out of the situation, and he did finally explain the situation to him later, so yeah. But also it's interesting that Tarzan uses a moment from Luke. Or Luke has a Tarzan moment, as we call it now. Because Tarzan came out in 1999 while this comic came out in 1978. So he swings on the rope and does the thing. Kicks the enemy and picks up the princess. Anyway, this seems to be the end of this story arc with the water planet in the Drexel system. Which, this is where I thought it'd be good to review this story arc. Because, that's quite interesting. In summary, the story arc is basically Luke crashes on this water planet. And then Han and Leia and Chewie go to rescue him, basically. After Leia's rescued by Han from the pirates. You're gonna get spoilers with an in-depth review like this anyway. But yeah, I think this was pretty fun and enjoyable, if a bit quirky because of the sea dragons, but I like some of the ideas that they presented and everything in this as well. So what do you think of this story arc? Have you read these, and if not, are you interested in reading them now? Let me know, and thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.